When your business feels out of control, it's usually not because everything is actually falling apart. It's because the business is asking its leader, that's you, to lead differently. And when your business feels stuck, that's often a sign you're stuck in an old way of thinking. Not because you're failing, but because the business has outgrown the way it's being led. A business only grows as fast as the person leading it is willing to grow, especially in how she thinks. And when your life starts to feel heavy, rigid, or just not that fun anymore, that's not a personal flaw. That's feedback. It's the business and your life asking you to step into a different kind of leadership. I'm Andrea Libros, and welcome back to She Thinks Big. So, if you've been listening for a long time, I want to say this clearly. This isn't just another episode. This is a relaunch because the work I'm doing now and the conversations I'm willing to have now, and honestly, and being asked to have now, are different. And that brought me to the realization that I'm no longer interested in helping women just function inside businesses they've already outgrown. And I'm definitely not interested in helping you, nor should you be interested in building something that looks successful, but quietly costs you your peace, your energy, or your joy. So I want to start today's conversation by saying this. Just because something isn't actually working doesn't mean it's broken, nor does it mean you're broken. This podcast is here to support you and give you the tools you need to recognize when something is actually working, but no longer fits. This podcast is not about fixing what's broken. That's a very different conversation. One I've had to have with myself, too. Here's the belief everything I do is built on. Your business can only grow as fast as you do, not professionally, personally. The way you think, the way you decide, the way you handle pressure, the way you relate to time, money, responsibility, and success. And I didn't come to this belief from theory. Early on, when I first started my business, I had a strategy, I had a business plan, I had the steps laid out, and on paper, it should have been working, but it wasn't. At first, I did what most people do. I assumed the strategy was wrong. So I tweaked it, and then I tweaked it again. Then I started questioning myself. Here's something I don't think I've said enough. When I started, I didn't consider myself an expert in anything. I wasn't thinking, I've mastered this. I was thinking, I'm willing to give this a whirl. What I did know was this. I was willing to work at it as long as it took, regardless of time or money or energy. I wasn't putting an expiration date on it. And I wasn't looking for permission, not from my husband, not from my friends, definitely not from the world. I had already decided I was doing this. But here's what I hadn't decided yet. I didn't actually believe people would buy my services. Not fully. I hoped they would. I wanted them to. But I wasn't leading from the belief that what I was offering was something people genuinely needed. And once I saw that, everything changed. I stopped treating my work like something I was trying out, and I started treating it like something worth backing. And that's when things started to move. So hard work will keep you going, but belief is what actually moves things forward. When I came to this realization, I stopped treating my work like something I had to convince people to want. And I started believing that people needed to experience it. And once that belief changed, I no longer felt like I was trying to sell someone or prove the value of my services. The pitch became easy. Not because I discovered some secret tactic, but because I finally stood behind what I was offering. I saw this again later with marketing. For a long time, I had a marketing strategy. I had people helping me. I was doing the things and it was working, but it really wasn't working. And I could have stayed in tactic mode, but that really wasn't the issue. The real issue was that I hadn't fully decided that this business warranted that level of marketing. I hadn't fully believed it deserved the investment, the visibility, the commitment to going all in. And here's the part people don't like to admit. If you don't believe your work matters enough to be seen, no amount of marketing will save you. Once I changed that belief, the strategy worked, but not before. So when I say this, I mean it. Your strategy isn't broken, your belief is. And that, at its core, is why She Thinks Big is coming back even bigger than before. There was something else that clicked for me while I was preparing for this relaunch that I wasn't expecting. Now, back in the day when I first started the podcast, the name of the podcast was Time to Level Up. And the very first podcast episode was about commitment. I used to say this all the time. If you're a longtime listener, you've probably heard me say it. But I used to say, are you interested or are you committed? And at the time, I knew that mattered, but I don't think I fully understood why yet. Because what I see now is this: commitment doesn't come before belief, it comes because of it. And I don't mean the Santa kind of believing. I don't mean wishing upon a star. I mean belief that shows up as action. Belief that says, I'm going after what I think is possible. I'm all in. Most women don't have a commitment problem. They're trying to commit to something they don't fully believe is possible yet. That's their problem. Okay, so let me give you a real example. Fall of 2023, my book launch. Now, from the outside, huge success. From the inside, life felt very, very, very heavy that month. We were moving into a new house. The book launch was happening, and there were wins everywhere. But I had no space to enjoy any of them. And I remember staring at the ceiling one night thinking, this is supposed to feel better than this. And remember, nothing was wrong. The launch strategy worked. The book did what it was supposed to do. But I hadn't led myself through that season in a way that really allowed me to actually experience the season. And that season taught me something really important. Success doesn't automatically create space. Leaders have to design it. Leaders have to design the space to actually enjoy it. Otherwise, growth just feels like pressure with some prettier packaging. Here's another belief I had to unlearn. If it's easy, I must be doing it wrong. I hear my clients all the time say, this seems too easy, so I must be doing it wrong. And that belief kept me from selling what I'm now calling power hours for years. Not because people didn't want to spend an hour with me and get some coaching, they did, but because I believed real impact had to be harder than that, had to take a longer time than that. But a few months ago, I threw that belief out the window and I started treating power hours for what they actually are. It's a paid hour of focused support on whatever you need support on in that moment. And people want them. They need them. They get real value from them. And I've learned that, and my business has gotten stronger, not weaker, from putting that offer out there. So just because something is simple, like book an hour with Andrea, pretty simple, it doesn't mean it's small. Ease isn't laziness. Ease is often alignment. And side note, I do have a little button that says that was easy. So if you would like to hear it, I can just put it in here right now.
That was easy.
Can you hear that? I mean, this is my button. All right. So ease isn't laziness. Ease is often alignment. And I figured out the same thing with retreats. So for a long time, I believed no one would want to come to Indianapolis, the crossroads of America, for a retreat. It wasn't Florida. It wasn't the beautiful Smoky Mountains. And I thought these retreats had to look a certain way in order to work. But once I started hosting retreats at my own house here in Indianapolis, everything got better. Obviously, there were less logistics, there was less chaos, but there also was more presence, I think, for me and the attendees. There was deeper connection. And I realized that this leadership isn't about creating magic. It really is more about removing friction. So maybe as you're listening to this, you're thinking, okay, maybe for you, it looks a little different. Maybe you're waiting to launch something until you have more time. Maybe you're waiting until the kids are older. Maybe you're waiting until things feel less busy. Maybe you're stressing about whether you should add something new or simplify what you already have. And you keep going back and forth. You keep second guessing yourself. Maybe you're searching for the right structure, the right support, the right way to do it. You're searching for a sign. And side note, everything technically works, but nothing is feeling easy.
That was easy.
So maybe things are looking good from the outside, but inside you are tired. Not burned out, just tired of carrying it all alone. So if that sounds familiar, it's probably not because you're doing something wrong. Remember, nothing's broken. It's probably because your business or your life is asking you to lead differently now. And that moment, right there, is where most women either get stuck or grow. So, this is why I say this unapologetically. Yes, you might be right here listening because you want to grow your business, but you and your life are part of the business. So, us talking about you, how you're living, what feels heavy, what no longer fits, that is not off topic. That is necessary. And I am not interested in helping you win professionally while quietly losing your own self. Let me be really clear about who this is for. This podcast, this is for the woman whose life works, whose business works, but still feels tighter and heavier than she wants it to. Now, she's capable, she's respected, she is doing well, and yet she's carrying a lot of it in her head. She's thinking through decisions late at night. She's replaying conversations in her head. She is trying to see the big picture while she's still standing inside the picture. And this is not because she doesn't know what to do. This is because she doesn't want to rush it without perspective. This is for the woman who is strong enough that people assume she's fine. So no one really checks in at the level she actually needs. She has people, she has support, but very few places where she can say the honest thing out loud without being fixed, judged, or even given advice she didn't ask for. She wants friends who get it, who understand the weight of being the decision maker, who don't need her to explain why something that looks good on paper still feels off. She wants more ease, not by doing less, but by thinking more clearly. She wants more breathing room, more space to make decisions without carrying them alone. She wants cheerleaders. Yes, she does. But she also wants the truth. People who will stand with her, who also will tell her the thing that no one else is saying. If you're not afraid of hearing something real, even if it's uncomfortable, this is for you. And if you want to lead differently, not harder, not faster, not by carrying more, I want you here. This is what She Thinks Big is about now. Leading the human first, designing businesses that feel right, not just impressive, and believing bigger before you demand more. Because your future doesn't need more hindsight. It needs a leader willing to step forward before she has all the answers. And that's what we're building here. Welcome back to She Thinks Big, where you learn to stop proving and start leading. If you're listening to this episode, make sure to hit the follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. But if you're watching, because yes, we are on YouTube too, you have to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single new episode every Tuesday. She Thinks Big is hosted by me, Andrea Libros. If you're a high-achieving woman building something real and you're done spinning, overworking, and second-guessing your leadership, you can learn more about my coaching at AndreaLibros.com. And if you want to bring this conversation, practical, real, and human, to your audience, team, or organization, you can book me to speak there as well. And for real-time insight, straight talk, and tools that help you lead with clarity, follow me on Instagram at andrea.libros.coaching. Tune in next week for a new episode of She Thinks Big.